You have ever been to India? If you travel to India, you know that it's easier to travel to India than it is to travel within India. And traveling in India is certainly not for the faint at heart. Jackie and I took a car, because it was the only way to get there, from New Delhi out to Pantnagar, which is in the foothills of the Himalayas, to visit an automobile manufacturing plant. And if you talk to my wife, she will tell you that we had 472 near-death experiences on the way. They have rules, traffic rules in India, it's just nobody follows them, right? So they take a 2-lane highway, if you could really call it that. It's more like a 2-lane road, and they turn it into 8 or 9, right? And the way you pass is 2 lorries are coming at you like this. They just sort of split, and you go right through the middle. And so it's a pretty, white-knuckle kind of experience. Well, one of the sights you will see if you travel in India, quite frankly in any third world country, but in India specifically, one of the sights you will see frequently is this. Families of 4, 5, and 6 riding the same motorcycle or motor scooter at the same time. No helmets, no leathers, no protection. One of the patriarchs of Southeast Asian business, probably one of the most well-known entrepreneurs in the world today, is Ratan Tata. He is the chairman of the Tata Group, 93 operating companies, $70+ billion in revenue. One of their flagship companies is Tata Motors. Now, Ratan grew up in a silver spoon kind of environment, but he's witnessed this form of travel all of his life. And one night he was leaving a business meeting in Bangalore. He stepped into his Mercedes with his driver, and he said to the driver, he said, "Please be careful tonight. It's going to be slippery." This was in the heat, the throw of the monsoons. He said, "Please be careful, it's going to be slippery." They got out into traffic and they encountered something that looked like this. And again he said to the driver, he said, "Be careful of them," because they pulled out in front of them. They said, "Be careful of them, they could slip." Well, they went around 2 more corners, and wouldn't you know it, the bike went out from under the dad. The mom went one way, the dad went another, the kids were all over the road, and it was everything they could do to just stop and not run over this family. And at that moment in time, the straw broke, because he realized this was an Indian problem that Indians should be able to solve. And so he went to the automobile manufacturers, he went to the scooter and the motorcycle manufacturers, and he said, "Let's build a safe, affordable form of transportation. Let's get that family off the motorcycle, out of the monsoons, out of the blistering heat, and get them into a safe form of transportation." Well, you know what the response was. Everybody said, "We're not interested, because we don't think you can do it." He said, "Well, we're going to do it anyway." Because he felt called. This wasn't just a business proposition. This wasn't just an entrepreneurial idea. This was about making a profit while making a difference. He felt called. So they started to work on a small car that might be priced at a little more than the cost of a new motorcycle. He went to the largest auto convention in the world, the Geneva Auto Convention, and a Financial Times reporter got a hold of him and said, "Mr. Tata, we understand you're working on a small car project." He said, "Yes, we are. We're excited about it." He said, "Well, tell me about it." He said, "Well, we want to," and he told them what I just told you. And the reporter pressed, he says, "Well, what's it going to cost?" He said, "I'm not prepared to tell you that. We're in the initial embryonic design phases of this. We don't know what materials costs are going to be. I can't tell you that." He said, "Well, you know how reporters can press, right?" He said, "Well, would 1 lakh rupees be about right?" At the time, 1 lakh rupees was the equivalent of $2,100 US. He said, "Yeah, that's in the zone. I'm not prepared to tell you, but that's in the zone." Next day, headline in the Financial Times read, "Tata's to produce 1 lakh car." And Mr. Tata said, at that point, I had a choice. I could go back and refute the headline, or we could take that as our charge. He said, the hardest time I had was going back to our senior engineers and convincing them that we could build a 1 lakh car. Now, what do you think the real experts in the auto industry said when they heard about this? They laughed. They said, "You know what, if he does it, it'll be a piece of doo-doo. It'll be 2 motorcycles welded together with some kind of cage on the top and cellophane windows. It'll be a piece of crap. It'll be an apology car." Well, I want to tell you, they grinded and they grinded and they grinded. And they stuck to their guns of the 1 lakh target, even after materials costs in this global economic meltdown went up by 40%. Jackie and I were in Mumbai 2 years ago for the launch of this car, and I'd just like to share a couple minutes of that experience with you because it was pretty powerful for us. I hope it will be for you.
It's said that behind every great answer lies a greater question. And more often than not, that question starts with can you? Can you is a challenge, not just to yourself, but to all that has been labeled impossible. Can you incites you to rebel against logic, against the norm, against all odds. Can you is a journey of exploring possibilities, of discovering solutions. Can you seize the extra in every ordinary, the reality in every dream, and its many can yous that has brought the world to where it is today. It was to the question, can you see in the dark, that Edison answered with a light bulb. Can you be on top of the world was the question that conquered Everest. And can you go beyond, put a man on the moon? Can you be stubborn enough to win, got us our freedom? Can you roam the world but still be connected? Was the birth of a cell phone. Can you work at the speed of your thoughts? Gave us the computer. Can you make the world hum your song? Put India in the limelight. Even the nano dream started with can you? Can you imagine a car just 3 meters long, seating a family in absolute comfort? Can you have the smallest 4-door car as safe as the big ones? Can you have a car that delivers fuel efficiency bordering that of a 2-wheeler? Can you imagine a car that impacts the environment the least? Can you imagine a car that breaks all class barriers? And can you imagine a car that will change the world? Again. And to all these can yous, we just have one thing to say. Now, you can.
Let me tell you what attracted us to this story. This wasn't just a great story about innovation. It was certainly that. When you look at the costs they had to manage out of the process, the suppliers they had to get on board to help manage costs out of the process. It's a pretty heroic story. But what attracted us to that was that in India alone you have 100,000 fatalities a year, most of them from two-wheelers. If he can put a dent in just 10% of that in India, and then we can extrapolate that to Brazil and Vietnam and Russia and China and Malaysia and other developing nations in the world, think of the impact that they're going to have. You want to talk about the power to change? There it is. It's a story about making a profit while making a difference. How did it happen? Because somebody had the guts to question the unquestionable.